It is the Anfield Wrap. I'm Neil Atkinson. After Liverpool have beaten Brentford by 4-1, Brentford 1, Liverpool 4. I'm joined by Mo Stewart, Neil Docking and John Gibbons. We are in association with Green King Sport. Pleased to announce that football is more than a game where they're concerned and where I'm concerned as well. The venues are showing every single televised Liverpool fixture over the 23-24 season. 900 sports pubs across the UK. It doesn't matter where you're based, you can find one. If you download the Green King Sports app, you don't just get 10% off drinks anytime there's a match on, but they are giving away thousands of pints of free Guinness. It is Guinness season, and the chance to win one of 6 holidays. So do download the app, have a little look at that, and get down to a game at some point soon. Also, you can get down and see the Anfield Wrap if you're in North America, which is excellent news, the entire continent. Wednesday the 20th of March, we're in New York City, 21st, Boston, 22nd, Toronto. Then, ladies and gentlemen, there's no more John Gibbons, which will be a blow to you. He's subbing out. He's missing out on Detroit on the 23rd, Wilmington on the 24th, and Washington, where we had a fabulous time last year, on the 25th. John, it's a blow for the public, not just for you.
Well, yeah, my disappointment is growing in my own decision, to be honest with you. Washington was brilliant last time, really, really good. One of my favourite live shows we've ever done anywhere. It was great, and apparently the public agree because they've all bought tickets again and it's sold out instantly. So I think a big Monday night in Washington. Delaware, we've got mates there, and it would have been really nice to see them. And then there's talk of this live karaoke band who were coming on straight after, or maybe even during. If
we're going to see what we can arrange.
So I'm good about that. And Detroit's Detroit, like, we just have an absolute scream there. And last time we went midweek and struggled for a late drink, so we've basically arranged it for Saturday night. So we can, yeah. Detroit, I generally one of the best ever nights out I've ever had a few years ago. And I'll be honest, Mel, I've had some nights out. As a man who once saw me dressed as Britney Spears outside outside the Nabsies at 4 a.m.
Even my Gibbo list is pretty good, so I don't know what yours is like.
This is a personal one.
No John Gibbons is very much an announcement you have to make in advance.
Yeah, I need the public to know.
We don't want riots.
No, we need them to know. So if you want John, it's New York on Wednesday the 20th, Boston on the 21st, and Toronto on the 22nd. But all the nights will be fantastic, including obviously Detroit, Wilmington and Washington. Get yourself down. Also subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. This is a long time of talking about things that aren't Brentford 1, Liverpool 4, but you can wait. There's lots of fantastic stuff on there. Both post-match shows were excellent yesterday. I enjoyed Gutman slaughtering me on the video, all more than allowed and encouraged, and I really enjoyed doing the pink, and I was so nice about his pub. So, you regret everything in the long run. But anyway, let's crack on. Brentford 1, Liverpool 4, where we did indeed watch in the White Hart on Hope Street, Arad Street at the back there, the Engineer. You can pick which one's your favourite, but they are, for me now, already the 2 best pubs in the city. Goals change games. It was a first goal game, John. It's any cliche you want, really, in the area, but yesterday, those cliches, those ones that have permeated football for decades, were emphatically true. That goal changed the whole game.
Yeah, it did, because they didn't really know what to do after it. I felt, and I thought Liverpool managed it really well after the goal, but also I think Brentford were a bit, well, what now? And I think they had a bit of a game plan, and it was working to an extent. I thought, it was a fairly even game. I thought I watched it on the telly at home, which is quite rare, and the commentary were making a lot of Brentford. I didn't really mind it, but I just didn't necessarily agree. Do you know what I mean? It was all like, oh, Brentford are playing well. I was like, well, yeah, they're doing okay, but Liverpool are doing all right as well. And I thought we'd maybe shaded the sort of the opportunity. Certainly, we'd made the keeper work in a way that they hadn't, sort of from theirs, really. And so I felt Liverpool were the more likely, but you can't deny that Brentford were a threat at 0-0. And, if I was expecting us to score first, but I wouldn't have been shocked, if Brentford would have been able to turn those opportunities, into a goal. But then once we scored, I felt both the combination of how well we managed it and how well we managed adversity and sort of situations. And then obviously our strength in the bench, even though, in many cases it was earlier than what we wanted. But also combined with the fact that they were a bit like, oh, we're not really sure what to do now. And they probably felt like they needed to then take the game to Liverpool in a way that they didn't feel particularly comfortable with. So it was a massive first goal for the game. But I think also, Liverpool deserve credit for how we played both at every score. I thought we were good at every score, to be honest with you. And I think, obviously, the game finishes really strongly for Liverpool, but I thought we were fine at 0-0. I thought we were good at 1-0, and then sort of from there, maybe even only got better.
There's something, Mo, where I think they were beginning to run out of a little bit of early steam, Brentford, when the goal comes. They'd had a couple of flurries in there. But there's something about the goal, firstly, obviously the timing of it. Secondly, that it is the opener. But the third thing is, it's a goal of such quality. And I think that there's not that goals count more sometimes, but it felt like a bit like 1.1 rather than just one. Like if you're Brentford, you're just like, oh God, they can do that, can they?
Well, there's so many kind of sliding doors moments, and I think if you think about the nature of Núñez and what we've seen from him, the fact that it was his first chance of the game and he took it so emphatically, that changes the mindset of all of us. And for them, it makes them think, okay, well, they're on it today. Shit. But I also think there's another element to our goal that really messed them up. It's the fact that it came from their set piece.
Yes.
And that was their big way home. That was one of their big way homes. And I said to you before the game when we were doing Friday show about Brentford and about their lack of counter-attack. We've got shit tons of counter-attack, and we showed it right there in that moment. And so let them know that if they want to do their thing, they're going to have to worry about our thing. And that's why the early narrative, it did do my head in, I'm not going to lie, thank you, Jermaine. Because it was like, they didn't understand the fact that what was happening might have been seen encouragement for Brentford, but it was well within our remit of exactly what we wanted to do. So there was the one chance where they got in behind Conor Bradley and then the ball came and Tony had his shot and it went across the post. There was another chance where they did a counter-attack. They did both of those things one time, and after that we were able to fix it. So the narrative of, oh, Brentford are doing well, had already gone by the time we got to our first goal. And then, as I say, because of the two elements of us up and them down all coming from that one goal, it did help us settle down, and I think it really did set the tone for the rest of the game.
If it was Toshak Keegan, it'd be one that you'd have seen loads. That, you know, I feel as though, because not least because I think there's so many incredible goals in football, full stop, these days. You lose the run sometimes of what one was, but it was the best of both of them. Neil, and Jota knows exactly what he's doing, not least because he lands and sprints. He almost does the header, land and sprint in one smooth move, like a fellow finishing an exercise on the Krypton Factor Assault course. He does this thing and it's all one motion as he goes on to do it. But the Núñez finishes, to me, you know, there's a world where Flecken just catches it and everyone's furious. No one can sleep nights off the back of it. Even if we go on and win the game, the sky's falling in. But it just shows the confidence of him. There's so many things to do that aren't that. He does that with such aplomb.
Yeah, all half long, I thought Núñez looked supremely confident, like a player who was absolutely at it from the very first whistle. Like 2 minutes in, Jota could play him in, and we'd have been in straight away, and he's furious at Jota for not playing the ball, and he was just constantly involved in that first half. Lots of clever, cute passes, little flicks, playing others in with really good, intelligent passing, intelligent football. And when it came to that moment, I think the sort of the accepted knowledge, accepted wisdom about Núñez has been is he has time. The more time he has, the bigger the issue. If he's bearing down on goal, he's got time to think about it. That's a problem. But what I liked about it, you could see him make his mind up quite early that he's going to chip him. You can see it.
He doesn't even look to the left. I think I'm going to be a bit of a fridge and say I think he should pass. So
well, convention would say you're correct.
I think he should pass. But when you look on the replay, he doesn't even look. No. Like, he could have 7 men either side, and like he wouldn't know. It's not even on his radar.
Yeah,
but was it Luton where he tried that finish before and it went over the bar? And I think I remember there was one game earlier in the season where he did try that and it went wrong, and there was lots of people getting on at him, and he would have probably been thinking in the back of my mind, like, nah, it was the right move. I just messed it up. And so again, this time he's like, nah, this is the right move, and I'm not going to fucking mess it up.
For me, it's the fact that his mind was set, and he was set on the finish, and he's like, I know I've got this finish in my locker. I know I can execute this, and this is the finish I'm going for. Daniel Sturridge talked about this on commentary earlier this season, where sometimes you need to have set finishes that you've practiced time and time again in training, and then in different situations unfold in a game, you just say, well, I'm opting for that finish that I know I can do. And that was what I saw from Núñez there. And yeah, the pass is obviously the intelligent thing, but then he's got the option to go over side of him. Anything but what you expected, everything but what we got. But what a finish. The celebration is magnificent again. He's the king of celebrating, Darwin Núñez. No one celebrates quite like Núñez. And it was, again, absolutely deserved for the form he's showing at the moment, the confidence that he's brimming with, and it was just such a brilliant moment, and it was the defining moment of the game.
What kills the feel good for everyone, John, is the injuries. You know, it's the two of them in the half. There's Jota after that one. I think Jones, I think we'd all sort of rolled with the punch of a little bit of, well, one of them happens from time to time. It might be a couple of weeks, might make the final, might not, because we all decide we're experts in sports science live before your very eyes. By the time the Jota one hits, first and foremost, Jota might be lucky to ever play football again in the minds of a number of people, including Rob Gutman, also a renowned sports scientist, and Jones. No one knows. No one's had sight nor sound of him for 15 minutes. God knows what's happened there. But I understand why it does kill the feel good for everyone, especially the manager as well, because he's just sort of looking at it going, all of this is hard enough. I need the lads.
But I think crucially it doesn't kill anything for the players, and I think that's massive. And I think, you say the Jones one, we go 1-0 up like seconds after. We just go 1-0 up straight away. And I think, the Jota one sort of is a horrible one, but then it brings Mo Salah on, and the players, they're just getting on with it. And I think as fans, there's an element that we need to get onto it as well. I think we all live in this Liverpool bubble, and that's because we're Liverpool supporters, and I sort of get it. And other fans are the same; they're all in their bubble, but it's a wider thing. There's just more injuries. So there was a study done earlier in the season where it said that I think it was in November, there's 10% more muscle injuries this season than there was last season. And then if you look at the last 4 seasons on average, it was 15% higher. That's just muscle injuries. And there's a million reasons for that. And it depends which one you want to believe. There's obviously the fact that we're just asking these footballers to play more. The intensity's risen of the game. There's the fact that games are longer now because they're trying to add this time on more. There's some people who think these lengthy VAR stops aren't doing footballers any favours. Whatever reason you think this...
And it's likely to be some from all the buckets.
Yeah, exactly. And, although I think a lot of the criticism of the medical teams is ridiculous because you don't know. No one knows how good these are. And the idea that Liverpool's are worse than others, like, people are just sort of guessing, and I think it's stupid. But I think there is probably a bit of a likelihood that there's just a bit of sort of catching up and a bit of sort of reacting to how football sort of is changing. But what I think it is important to say, and I only think it's important because we need to sort of keep our heads, is that there's just more injuries across the whole league, and especially more muscle injuries. And then when you have ones that are impact ones, that Liverpool are more likely to get because of the way we play. You see the Jota one? He goes in for 2 challenges in quick succession in midfield. Marcus Rashford's nowhere near. He stood on the halfway line. Go and fucking get the ball and pass it to me, will you? And that's not me picking to... I'm just randomly picking Marcus Rashford.
It's the same. I had the same conversation with Rob, and I use Riyad Mahrez. He plays the same position, but he wouldn't have been back there doing that. Yeah. He'd have just gone, that's not my business. Can you just crack on and get the ball back and give it to me?
Yeah, we've all seen that video of Messi walking. And then he walks until he scores. And it's brilliant, isn't it? It's like watching Craig Harron. And it's sort of that. And everyone's like, oh, it's great. But we've decided as a team, and the manager certainly decided we don't want that. So because we're combative, and because we see a problem like Brentford and go, oh, you think you're going to bully us, do you? Well, we'll get on this. He might be 5'6", but he'll fucking barge it off the ball, which they were doing. By the way, we were laughing before about Mo Salah, who thinks he can put the shoulder on him and ends up in the fucking Thames. Do you know what I mean? And so that's the situation we've got an extra combative team, and if you've thrown yourself into these situations, you're going to get unlucky sometimes where fucking Rhino from the Gladiators is going to fall on top of you or something, and it's going to hurt, and it sort of hurt him. And so the extra intensity that we play is going to exacerbate this already football-wide phenomenon of players getting more injuries. And so I think it's frustrating, and no one wants to have a situation on a Friday where you're reading that your goalkeeper's out, and no one wants to see a situation. But to be honest, I'm looking at that Curtis Jones injury and I'm just gutted for him, because I'm thinking it's a cup final next week and he's going to start it, and he's had all these cup finals where he hasn't started, and he probably thinks he should, but that's because he backs himself, but no one else does. And then I went shopping Saturday morning. I was thinking about the final next week, and I was thinking, it'd be great. Curtis Jones finally going to start one, and then he gets down. I'm more gutted for him, really. But Ryan Gravenberch will come in and it'll be brilliant, because he was brilliant when he sort of come on. And so I think, but that's what the players think. The players don't live in this Liverpool bubble. The players understand, because they've got mates. They go to an international team and the mates are injured. Do you know what I mean? They're sort of seeing all this. Everyone's talking about Arsenal. Arsenal haven't missed this player, they haven't missed any games. All right, let's see them in April when they're fucked again. Do you know what I mean? The managers managed it really well throughout this season, and he's managed the workload, and yet we've still sort of picked up injuries. And that's not me to say that certain times, maybe a player was brought back quickly or something, I don't know, or maybe he wasn't. Do you know what I mean? They can't have been more careful with Thiago, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? He was
but they were still criticised so heavily for his injury.
They can't have been more careful with him. Bacetic, they've just given him a gap year.
Yeah.
They've just said, go and find yourself, lad. Get into Bob Marley. We'll see you in a bit. Honestly, it's like they're so careful. And then the players are like, I want to play. And so, like, and then someone else is injured. And so you think, well, you don't know. You've got to throw them back in at some point. And as I say, it's in this context of there's loads more injuries across the league. Like, and, Mo, you do the coach home. How many times do people talk about injuries to you?
Every single time.
We've got a lot of injuries.
It's football Twitter's favourite debate now, isn't it? It's finally eclipsed Gerrard, Lampard and Scholes. I see it like every week. You see a different chat with, you can't compare your injuries to ours, whether it's a Spurs fan, a United supporter, Chelsea,
Newcastle. Fucking hell, it's been awful. Sheffield United about 10 all year. I keep an eye on that physio table thing. Sheffield United, I was like, how are you still top?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got a fucking team out all season. It's ridiculous. But I followed Tom Fahey, a few of us are mates with him now, sort of through this. On Friday, he was like, this is the worst season of all time. And I'm like, Tom, you're fourth, fucking chill out. Do you know what I mean? But he's talking about the injuries because they got another one to come out. They've actually only got 6 out at the moment. But it just feels a lot to everyone because it is. Everyone's got loads.
I think as well, the point you made at the beginning about the players and how their reaction to it, I think is so key because it's really a marked difference for me from last season because it feels like everybody in that dressing room trusts everybody in that dressing room 100% to go out there and do what is necessary to win football games. And if you look back to last season, I really don't think that was the case.
What I think is incredible about that half-time is they decide to do Nunez. They've had the two that they've had to deal with. He tweaks a couple of things tactically, and then they go out and put that performance in. That's to John's point of the players are just getting on with it. They are brilliant from the start of the second half right the way through until the moment at which it goes 2-0. They're absolutely brilliant. You can argue until the moment they go 3-0, but the moment it goes 2-0 and they feel like job done there, and it's coming. That goal is coming, Mo.
It's inevitable.
It's coming for all the right reasons.
It is, and their attack has dried up completely. Like I believe that between our first goal and second goal, I think they only had one shot, and that was us completely strangling the life out of them, and them not having any kind of clue around it. But there's so many things I love about our second goal. It was a real narrative buster. Because if you think about Endo, people would say, oh, well, he's not going to be able to dominate. He's not going to be the dual machine. He was over there. He's old and slow. Nah, wins his header. Gets it right into that mix there. And then you've got McAllister on the edge of the box, creating havoc. And such a calm, composed finish as well. I just really like the way our team are responding to every challenge. And there's the thing in the back of your mind that says, well, eventually they're not going to be able to sustain in this for so long. And it's like, yeah, but maybe they can, though. Yeah. Maybe they actually can.
In the gap, just on the numbers, Nunez scores in the 35th minute. They are 2 shots between then and when Mo Salah makes it 3. Cumulative XG of those 2 shots is 0.07. Liverpool, from the point at which Nunez scores, so it's not including the Nunez chance, go and make it 3. The cumulative XG in the period of time for Liverpool is over 1.5. They marmalise them, Neil. They can see the opportunity to marmalise them and they take it. And that to me is, in lots of ways, the most gratifying thing. Now, I think there is a thing here where they're knackered. Brentford, I think that they looked suddenly like, Christ, this is so hard. In a way that if you are Thomas Frank, it's interesting to me how quickly he gets an all-guard off on 62. They've got to play City on Tuesday. They've got to go to the Etihad on Tuesday. And I think that's in his mind with the subs. But for me, there's a massive Neil Maupay barometer. From 0 to 20, there was a lot of Neil Maupay. From 20 to 35, there was some Neil Maupay. From 35 until when he got substituted, there was no Neil Maupay to be seen. Yeah,
he was so involved, wasn't he, in the early stages for them. And they're like us, able to go from back to front so quickly and generate a chance in a matter of seconds, in a heartbeat. They flip a game round. But obviously, we're so capable of doing the same, and we have that far greater quality in attack. So it's no surprise to me that the chances we were creating were much higher chance.
Quality.
Higher quality. I'm stumbling over my words here. It's no surprise that we were creating better openings. That's what I'll go with. Because the quality of Mohamed Salah when he comes off the bench is just there for all to see. The pass that he plays into McAllister is gorgeous. And it's so much on that ball for McAllister then to take a slight touch and finish. But that you mentioned that I think it's 9 minutes after the interval, we're just all over them, because you've already had the Salah opportunity where, again, he's taken a great touch. He's found the space for himself, and then a rare miss hit. He's had the one just before half-time where Diaz has broke down the left, and then I think Núñez takes a slight touch on it.
It ricochets off him, doesn't it?
Yeah, like diverts off Salah's path. But it felt like the second goal was coming long before it did. And their opportunities in the first half, where Maupay was getting himself into some clever situations and playing some good 1-2s with Tony, and Reguilón, who's become such a big attacking threat for them in next to no time since he's joined in January, is it?
Yeah.
He obviously... But I love the way that we were blocking off those runs from Maupay and Reguilón. And 9 times out of 10, it seems to be Endo who was the man standing in the way. And you could see the frustration on the Brentford players, where he was literally cutting off their run at source. And McAllister too. There was so much McAllister in this game. There was so many McAllister fouls, so many clever, smart, tactical fouls from both him and Endo, that we wrestled control of that midfield. And after the goal, I just thought we were dominant in a way that I've rarely seen us so dominant and so controlled of a football match this season.
The other thing that happens at half-time, John, is he makes the Núñez change. And if we're going to do frustrations with the commentary, I would like the commentators to explain the rules to people from time to time, which is that you can only break the game 3 times. That rule feels a little clunky when you have 2 first-half injuries, and it might be something that it might be worth someone pointing out at some point that there's no way either of those changes are to obviously disrupt the flow of the football match, and it might be that you're better off limiting the number of changes you can do in a second-half period. But that to one side, that wasn't explained to people who were sort of watching, and that, I think that massively influences his Núñez-based decision. If Núñez has got any sort of tweak, if the plan was anyway to do him on 55-60 to keep it fresh with an eye on Luton and then an eye on the final, I think that explains the decision to move quick on that one, because it just frees everyone up, and then it obviously helps you can bring on a player of Gakpo's ability.
Yeah, 100%. I think, if, like you say, with the fact that they'll be conscious, and I think Jürgen has probably got to grips with the 5-sub thing better than any other manager from what sort of what I've seen in terms of how he's used them. And for a while, no one really did anything. It was like, oh, right, we've got 5 now. And then you started seeing, people going, actually, can we use this for this? And sort of stuff like that. Are we better doing double subs, triple subs? What's the sort of best way for us to have an impact in this game, but also to make sure that we're resting people as well. And I think Jürgen it feels to me like he's been one of the quickest to sort of switch on to the possibilities of the 5 subs. So they would have been aware of the rules, sort of certainly a bit aware of that, at half time, and I think he's thinking, well, if Núñez goes back out and then says on 55, look, I am really struggling here, then you've got to do all your subs then, haven't you? And he's conscious of that. And
you've got to say to him, just give me another 10.
Yeah,
you don't want to be doing that either.
Yeah, and he is he's a bit sort of, he gets a bit superstitious sometimes. I think Jürgen as well. Like, he's a feelings manager, isn't he? As well as sort of everything else. So I think if he feels like we're having a bad day on injuries, sort of, the idea of things happening in freeze and stuff like that. I think he is a bit susceptible to stuff like that, sort of Jürgen. So I think he'd have been maybe a touch spooked. Certainly more than the players who weren't asked at all. I was like, just put one of my other mates on. They're all boss, yeah. They're all them lads. They're all class. Yeah. But I think he'd maybe been a bit sort of spooked on that, really. And so I think there's the double thing of, well, we've had enough bad luck today, but also sort of being conscious of that. But like you say, there's Gakpo there, and he's not been overplayed recently. Cody's he's obviously in and out, and he's doing a good job for the team. In terms of that, it's 10 for the season for him now, which is great for a lad who's played in different positions and not always had as many minutes as I'm sure he'd sort of like. And so that is there. It wouldn't shock me at all to see Núñez start on Wednesday, or I think the only reason they wouldn't is they maybe go, well, we use him off the bench and then he starts on the Sunday. I think that's the only sort of the way he might not play, but I'm sure he is completely fine, and I'm sure from what they've sort of said, from it is as much, like you say, Neil, about that idea of what's my second half move if I keep him on as much as anything.
And I think it's interesting, Lloyd, because Jürgen definitely does have that kind of fear about it, like the injury gods have kind of struck us. Like, I remember after Jota comes off, there's a tackle on Conor Bradley, and it's just a normal tackle, and Jurgen freaks out, and it's like,
that was fucking mad though, wasn't it? He was, because what was mad about that was, like, normally if a player gets injured, like the players are all a bit like tentative, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like it sort of affects them a little bit, and maybe this is part of what I was saying before, that they all just think, oh, lads just get injured now, and it's a thing. But I think Jurgen's a bit like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you've just seen someone literally stretching off, and then that's your move.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was the first foul that had been given against Brentford all game, which is insane. Like, I'm sure there was been one before that. Not least the Curtis Jones one, by the way, that's a foul. But I mean, it's not an awful one. I don't think I'm not saying it's his fault that Curtis necessarily
the
got
fouls
injured.
count at half time being 9-1 was mad.
And that was the one that he fucking asked to give.
When Jans...
To be fair, he booked him for it.
What
And the lad was going to be first one. And I was a bit like, one, it's not, if we're all honest. But also, two, you've just done that to him.
But
the one on Jota-
Jurgen's like, oh my God.
The one on Jota when he gets the knee in the chest, before the injury. There's that one. There's the one when Janssen puts the iron claw on him in the box.
that was mutual holding.
Oh, mutual holding.
Giving us mutual holding.
I sort of ended up in an all right place with all penalties, in that it was as though Michael Oliver and the VAR had a chat beforehand and said, but just fucking giving nothing. Is that all right? They can do what they want. Don't tell them, but they can do what they want, because the Robertson one's one from High Heaven where you're
and then
tell you what.
share whichever you want of these three on Twitter and say the Premier League's corrupt. Either way you want, it's all
This is
good.
it. It's like you can't get at us if everyone's pissed off, and that's kind of the
It was
rule
mad.
of
It was
thumb.
mad. Like, basically, if a Liverpool player breathed on a Brentford player around the halfway line the wrong way, free kick. If, on the other hand, though, you literally power slam someone in the penalty area, just crack on, boys. You're all at it.
And the interesting thing for me on that, though, is if you look back at all of our previous games against Brentford, them getting loads of free kicks is something that's happened in all of them, and it's frustrated the hell out of me, because you know that Jurgen would have said beforehand, no cheap free kicks, lads, no free kicks, and yet they are so good at buying them, and I don't think it's like us being stupid. I think it's them just knowing how to get in situations.
So I have a bit of a theory on this. You know, last year the 1-0 at Anfield?
Yes.
We give loads of free kicks
Yes.
away. Loads.
Drove me insane.
Unbelievable number. I think we were almost encouraging it. Like, we're going to be so good at set pieces today. It doesn't fucking matter.
Oh, that's
Like, there's
interesting.
almost like where you want set pieces, all right? We want set pieces. Let's see how you get on. Like, almost like we're not going to have any special measures. Just so like we're so confident in ourselves. And I thought there was a slight element of that in this. A little bit like, we're going to just deal with this. It's just a set piece, boys. Yes, they're good at them, but it's just a corner, or it's just a free kick, it's a throw in. We've all seen throw-ins.
Yeah.
We're going to be all right. And I thought there was a real element, and I thought that came from Van Dijk.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout, actually, because I think there was something that else that I was thinking throughout the game, is that there are so many elements that we are normally fearful of going into games against Brentford. The physical element, the set pieces, the counter-attacks, their ability to find our weakness and really drill into it. And we were almost like confronting those. We were like, this thing that you think we're scared of, we're not scared of. We're going to walk right into it. And they didn't have a move for that. And the way that we were able to take those things that they were so confident in and destroy that confidence, I think really shook them. And then that's when they start to see them making uncharacteristic mistakes. Like, if you think about our third and fourth goals, they basically gave them to us and we took them. And those are things that you don't get cheap ones against Brentford. So the way that we approached what they did, and I really do think it shook them up. And fantastic. Hopefully it means that we can put Brentford to bed for now.
We're scoring from one of their set pieces, as you mentioned before, as well, is an interesting psychological thing. And I saw, people being a bit critical of Brentford for only leaving one man back. And I was like, well, you sort of have to, if you're Brentford, you sort of have to commit to what you're good at.
It's what they've been doing for 3 years.
Yeah, you sort of have to commit to what you're good at. And so if they start like leaving people back from them, then what's your move? I noticed as well, they didn't get a corner until I think it was the 80th minute or something like that. They didn't get, and I don't know whether that was something that we were conscious of. Maybe like they like them. Let's just try to sort of avoid that. If you're after empty it, that way rather than sort of thing. But they didn't get a corner, so they'd have been maybe a bit conscious of that during the game as well, thinking, well, fucking hell, we worked on corners all week, and then we haven't had one. And we've got all this plan, and there's this keeper, and we want to get at him and stuff like that, and we want to put it right on him, but we haven't had one at all. And then we've got these free kicks, and they've just fucking scored from one of them. And it is sort of all part of it, really, that makes you frustrates the opposition, and that's when maybe you start to see mistakes sort of creep in because they're like, oh, what are you supposed to do against this team?
Well, we do have a defensive triangle of Endo, Van Dijk and Konate. Then, as you said, bring on the set pieces.
But then the other thing that we also had was in there was McAllister to start to do some individual performances, Neil. I thought once we were ahead, in lots of ways, it was his most Brighton display. And that's not to say he hasn't played ever so well at times this season in that deepest role. But he did the thing where he was wherever the game needed to be. So he literally gets the goal to make it 2-0 by virtue of being in the penalty area, because that's what we needed at that point. Then he's back helping Endo, supporting his centre-backs, offering to his full-backs. He was just literally the football match. It felt like in that second half period, it revolved around him and it revolved around Salah. And that was Liverpool's magic trick.
Yeah, like the game was following him wherever he went, but obviously it's the other way around.
Like the Rain in the Truman Show.
Yeah, absolutely. And his ability, as you said, to recycle possession, to be intelligent, to keep it moving, the experience he's, gleaned from his time at 6 is now invaluable when he does drop in alongside Endo. And then almost seeing more of his bag of tricks as well. I think there was a little back heel on the edge of the box in the second half where he's trying to create openings, combinations with Diaz, who I thought had a fascinating game, Diaz, with how central he was. So often he was so involved, Diaz, throughout, such a bright spark. And I thought him and McAllister, there was an understanding there I saw starting to develop. I think that we used the ball so well at 2-0. I mean, we smothered them, absolutely smothered them, and the game was only ours. And McAllister was key to that at all times. He's a brilliant footballer, and it has gone under the radar because we had these endless debates about whether he should be playing at number 6, which he excelled at, by the way. But now we're seeing exactly what he can do in other departments.
Yeah, for me, I think it's interesting you say it was his most Brighton display, because I feel like the combination with him and Endo was the most McAllister Caicedo. Yeah. And I think that the two of them have worked it out. And I was seeing earlier on in the game, people on Twitter, shout out to Sam Maguire, I always have to shout him out, saying that it was getting him and Endo on the same pitch was getting a bit Lampard-Gerrard, like they hadn't worked it out. And for starters, they've probably played the least together out of everybody because they normally come on for each other. And then they had the second half against Burnley where Curtis Jones is nominally out on the right back. So the midfield, it was basically them two and then the two centre-halves behind them. And they were moving as a box around the field. And that allowed them to work it out. And then again in this game, there were different things that Brentford were doing, trying to get around the back of them. They were working it out. And now I feel like those two are understanding each other to the point where they can play together and they can really have an influence on everyone else. So,
but also he switched with Gravenberch as well, with them flitting between an 8 and a 10 role, the two of them, and occupying that role at different times.
Yeah. And again, it allows Gravenberch to concentrate on the things he's good at. Like, this was the game where he finally remembered or realised, actually, I'm bigger and stronger than a lot of people on this pitch.
And I can move away from them with these,
And I'm going to fucking use that to my advantage.
Yeah.
I thought one of the things with Endo, John, watching the game is another reminder that he doesn't win the ball loads, but what he does is he just does your head in until you've got to move the ball on in a way you didn't want to do. You wanted to play forward, you want to play progressive, but he's just not going to let you do that. And I think it's a really interesting, like normally one of the things you want from a holding midfield, and he does win battles, don't get me wrong, but one of the things you always say is, he's won his battles there. I just think there's a thing where he never loses any. He'll at least get to draw, if you see what I mean. But that means the football match has not progressed the way the opponent wants.
And he's really good at being where he needs to be or where he should be as well. And I think that really helps Neil because he's getting a lot of second balls. But they probably don't even necessarily count as interceptions. But the amount of times, the ball would go through and then it'd be headed back and then Endo was there to sort of pick it up. And that kind of player you can take for granted a little bit. But because it's probably a while since we've had one, really, someone who is sort of like that, who's you notice it more really, and then after a while we'll probably sort of stop noticing it, even though we shouldn't, because you sort of get used to it with someone. But the idea of, no, I know where the ball's going now, and I know where it's going to come back before anyone else is, and then I'm going to be stood there. And his first time passing in those positions is exceptional as well. Like we saw it with his head as well. He'll just head to it. So it's almost like we'll clear it, and he's like, I know where it's going to. I know where they're going to head it, and I know where I'm going to pass it. Before while the ball's still in the air, it's still going over his head, and it's incredible, really. His intelligence, and that's the beauty of signing experience. And people keep saying, I wish we could imagine we got him 5 years earlier and stuff like that. But what we have bought for not a lot of money is years and years of experience of knowing where to stand on a football pitch. And that sounds sort of really basic, but it isn't really, because you know, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't know where you're meant to be, it's like the opposite of Balotelli, who was always stood in the wrong place. When I couldn't believe it when I watched it. I was quite excited when we sort of got him, I remember, because, you know, you've never really sort of, you know, watched him properly. You know, you see all his talent, and I just couldn't believe how often, I was in 90% of the time, he was stood where he shouldn't have been.
I didn't see any Balotelli chat coming this morning.
Yeah. No, it's the opposite of what I could think of. But Endo is always sort of stood in the right place, and I don't necessarily mean like from a shielding the back four sort of point of view. I just mean in open play, in general play, when it's sort of a bit broken up, and, you know, it's an intelligence thing really. And so when you're saying, Neil, that, you know, it's not like he's winning loads of 50-50s or winning loads of duels. He just sort of doesn't have to, because he's getting into the right place. The game's not even breaking into that. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly, the amount of times yesterday the game went from a bit fractured, or it's the ball's bouncing about, to suddenly Liverpool are on the attack. There was loads, and 9 times out of 10 it's because of Endo and something he'd done.
I think if you look at statistically, I think Gravenberch was the one who won the most duels and the most tackles and interceptions, but a lot of that is down to Endo. So like you say, Endo will force someone to do something they don't want to do, which will put him in a position where Gravenberch can come in and sweep up and go right. It's a real team, collective, connective effort. And for, as I say, those three probably played together the least out of all of our midfield combinations. For them to be able to do that at this stage in the season is really encouraging.
Okay, I want to, in a few minutes, talk about Mo Salah, and I want to talk about Virgil van Dijk as well, what with them being the two best ones. But last week, Tom Kane, playwright, Les Longley, actor, and Gareth Roberts, formerly of this parish, came in to talk about Edge Hill University staging a 97+. As ever with these things, 97+ being about the Hillsborough disaster and matters pertaining from it. You don't have to listen to this sort of thing if you're not up for it. It's about 15 minutes long if you want to scoot ahead, because I understand a lot of people will. But this play's being staged on the 16th of April at Edge Hill University. It was very kind of Tom, Les and Gareth to all come in and speak about it. So here it is. I'm joined by Tom Kane, who's a playwright, Les Longley, who is an actor in Tom's play, and Gareth Roberts, who you will know from all the wonderful work he did with the Anfield Wrap for, well, ever. And Gareth, you're at Edge Hill Uni. That's the work that you're doing right now, and part of what you've got in touch with us here, because Tom's written a play that's about survivors of Hillsborough, and obviously you thought you'd get in touch with us and get people talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom's a former student at Edge Hill as well, so there's that link. We've got Professor Phil Scraton coming down as well, speaking before the play,
which is 16th of April.
Yeah, being staged at Edge Hill at the theatre there. It is in fact sold out at the moment.
It wasn't when you got older.
It wasn't when we got older, yeah. So what we're doing about that is we're gauging further interest. So if people listen to this and think that's the type of thing I'd like to go to, I'd like to hear Phil, I'd like to see Tom's play, I'll start off by doing the admin. You can email us corporateevents@edgehill.ac.uk, and there is a reserve list, and we're just going to sort of gauge interest, leave our options open and see what happens. So if people fancy it and they feel like they've missed out, you might not have done. We're keeping our options open on that.
That's good. Before I bring Tom in, because you've seen it and I haven't, so that's why it's very, very, very useful that you're here. It's an intense experience. It was performed at the Edinburgh Fringe, the filmed version that you saw of it. What should people expect from it?
Yeah, it's hard hitting, and it should be hard hitting because it's a tough subject. But it's important that we continue to talk about it, and that's reflected in the work that Phil's doing and the work that Tom's doing. And it's important. It's great as well. That for me that it's now being taught in schools and things like that as well. It's important that this isn't brushed under the carpet again, because that happened for far too long. So yeah, the play is very powerful. Obviously focuses on survivors. It's a tough watch, but it's an important watch. And as I mentioned as well, we've got Phil coming along, who people will know, Professor Scraton, I should probably call him in my professional capacity. But Phil taught at Edge Hill for 21 years. He's got an honorary doctorate at Edge Hill as well, and he's well loved, and rightly so. And Edge Hill actually played a part in all this, really, and a lot of it I didn't actually know about. So the Hillsborough project, which is where everything started to be questioned, with Phil at the centre of it. was based at Edge Hill. So survivors were coming into Edge Hill once upon a time, talking to Phil and others about their experiences, and that's when things started to be questioned, and rightly so. So I think it's great from the university to be staging Tom's play, and for inviting Phil over from Belfast as well. And anyone who has already got a ticket, well, you're going to get an informative night. I would say that. And as you say, people should be wary of the content, obviously. I think we're sort of recommending, in broad terms, sort of an audience of, say, like 15-ish plus, something like that.
Yeah.
15, 16, yeah. Just because of some of the content in there. But, people who are familiar with the Hillsborough story, you wouldn't expect anything else, really. It's been a tough thing that's, gone on for far too long.
So, Tom, you've worked with the Hillsborough Survivors Support Alliance on this. Do you want to give people a précis of what the play's about and why you came to write it the way in which you did?
Yeah, so 97 Plus, it's set in 2012, and it's about Hillsborough survivors John and Steve and how they each deal with the trauma now, 23 years later. So I chose to set it then because that was when the Hillsborough Independent Panel were looking at Operation Resolve, when Theresa May brought that inquest forward. And during that time, that was when survivors found out that their statements had been changed and modified, and they were changed so simple that it was hard to see unless you were like really looking through it all. And the HSA, I interviewed about 12 people overall, and the play kind of just wrote itself, really. A lot of it is verbatim. For my dissertation piece, I was told I had to merge what people say in like different characters. So some people in the audience, they're not just saying, this I'm based on Steve, I'm based on Nancy, it's all the different characters that they hear, which makes the play so raw and real.
So you took it from those interviews and from those statements is how you sort of you pulled it together. So it is very much people's lived experiences that you've moulded into these two characters, especially. I know it goes a little bit wider than that, but that's how you pulled it together.
Yeah, and a lot of the survivors have come to watch the shows as well. So we first performed at the Little Liverpool Theatre Festival in New Works in 2022, and that was the cast of 4, which is the festival edition, which is an hour and a half, which is the same edition we're performing at Edge Hill now. And then we went back to the main Liverpool Theatre Festival after a 10 out of 10 perfect review, and we had a matinee performance because we sold so well. And then we went to Edge Hill in 2022 for a schools edition. That was in support of Ian Byrne's Real Truth Legacy Project, which is a campaign to add Hillsborough to the high school curriculum. So we modified it for a schools edition. Then we took it outside of Merseyside to Buxton Fringe Festival, and that was in preparation for the world's largest theatre festival, and that's the Edinburgh Fringe. And then, we've got the Edge Hill show coming back for 90 years for alumni. I think it's great to work with Phil as well, because the play talks about the Hillsborough Independent Panel, and obviously Phil was the one who led that, so it's perfect that it merges the two alumni together. And then, obviously we got the full play as well just before that, so the full play is 7 characters as opposed to the 4 we've done. That's the debut of the full play at the Liverpool Olympia, and that's on the 12th of April.
That's on the 12th of April. Les, someone who's obviously acting within it, how does that feel to sort of to have those real life experiences? Because there's so much to draw on. You must almost, in a way, as an actor, almost feel overwhelmed, given the breadth of the documentation that there is, the breadth of the interviews that there's been, the amount of people. You've got to try to find your version of this in amongst that. Has that been a difficult journey for you?
It has. I mean, like I say, we've been doing it now for 3 years, so it's been a really good journey. I mean, when Tom contacted me to be in the play, he kind of had me in mind as Steve, which is, as an actor, if someone says I wrote something like with you in mind, it's a massive honour, privilege, and obviously as a big Liverpool fan to be involved in like anything to do with Hillsborough, to spread the word of like the awareness and all that. It's been nothing but, it's just been challenging from the word go. It's because you want to do it respectfully, you want to make sure everything you're doing is right, and you put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform as good as you can, to tell the story that we have got. And it's a powerful story. It's been like, when we took it to the Edinburgh Fringe, because we'd done it for a full week, it was quite daunting, on what you were doing
night after night.
And it just took its toll in the end. About the Thursday, I was feeling it myself. I couldn't switch it off. It was a lot of emotion.
How was it doing it in schools? How have you found that?
Yeah, so that one was at Edge Hill, where we invited schools, well, within Sefton to come watch it, just to see how that feedback was. And yeah, the feedback was really good to hear from them there. And it's nice to know that the adaptations that the play can have. We've got the hour-and-a-half festival edition, the Fringe edition, which was an hour, the schools edition, and then obviously, the full play. So there's 4 plays all in the one, basically.
And for you, sort of moving between those, you've still got to obviously keep this character, keep this idea of what Steve is, how it works for you, and that again is part of the challenge between these different forms.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, the schools edition is very informative. The one thing we kind of got with the feedback is there was no like heart and soul in it. It was because it was more of like, let's get the message across, which we do need that message across, but it kind of lost a bit of its soul in a way. And then, but it's 1 minute you're doing one version. I mean, I'm looking forward to doing the full version because that's never been done before. So to see all the new twists and turns and the new characters and all that, as much as well as bringing my character back as well, as it's going to be quite challenging and stuff.
Even now, like the set has evolved as well. Like when we first did it at Little Liverpool Theatre Festival, we had a month to get everything ready. So we used my garden furniture to make the set. Then we got stage blocks built for the Fringe shows, and then obviously full play will be real couches and real evidence. So it does change.
For years, you and I, Gareth, we've been around this through the Anfield Wrap and bits and pieces. I think it's important, isn't it, to reiterate this stuff's not a test. If people don't feel up to it in any way, shape, or form, there's because of Ralph Fiennes, there's trigger warning chat at the minute, and it just strikes me as utterly ridiculous in the context of the fact that this was so many people's lived experiences. And if people don't feel as though, even if they've got tickets for any of the versions of it, if they don't feel up to it on the day, it's important people look after themselves and look after their own sort of sense of health around this. I think this all the time, and I think it must be so wearing on so many of the survivors, as I'm sure Tom's gone through when he's interviewed them, as you and I have in the past in different ways.
Yeah, look, it's always a difficult time of year for survivors. We know that. I think we all know. And we either had friends who were there anyway, or we've become friends with people who were through doing this over the years, and we know that it's a difficult time for them. We know that Phil comes over every single year, spends time with them, and he's rightly held up by them as the great man that he is. I've got so much respect for what Phil does, and the work he's done. And yeah, absolutely, you're right to say that, in that, look, it's a difficult topic. And when I've shared this on Twitter, a lot of people came back to me that I know and that you'll know, just saying it looks fantastic, and I'm really pleased that, that message, that play is out there. But I could never come along to it because I was there, and I just know I couldn't do it. And I think that would apply to some of my friends as well. And look, on the day as well, we're mindful of that at the university, and we'll have people there that if people want to talk afterwards and things like that, they will be able to. So there'll be sort of support there if people need it on the day.
Is it difficult for you sometimes when you perform this that people will want to speak to you afterwards as well? Les, is that a thing that you then, because you've got to obviously, and you would be because you're a human, you've got to be compassionate, and you've got to want to put an arm around someone because it's very, very possible.
I mean, to be honest, when I've met survivors afterwards, they've come up to me and gone like, "Oh, you could have been me," and stuff like that. And it's just, you don't know what to say. Sometimes you want to just run away and go, but then you can see the overwhelming, they're so happy that you're telling the story. They're so happy you've done. No, I wouldn't say happy, but they appreciate, they appreciate what you've done and stuff. And that's it. You're just trying to get the message across. You're trying to do as good a job as you can. But it was when you're speaking to some survivors, you can see how grateful they are, they're so happy, and that you're telling the story of what happened, and the insides and outs, and the things that happen when, they got, how can you say, the wrongful, accidental death and stuff like that, and it was like trying to brush it underneath, and it was like, no, hang on a minute, this has happened now, the Operation Resolve's happened now, and it is to see these, like to say the two characters, they build a relationship and all that. It's such a good thing, and especially with men talking and stuff like that, that's a massive thing in the play. You see these two fellas talking, which they wouldn't have, like nowadays, and now, but especially in the last couple of years, men have like come out now and they can talk and stuff like that. Yeah,
and that's what you've got from the work that you've done with the Hillsborough, the HSA in there, Tom, the Hillsborough Survivor Support Alliance. Part of what that work that you've seen the work that they've done in terms of getting people to open up and to speak, and the benefits there is around that. And I know that you've worked closely with them.
Yeah, definitely. And every single show, and we'll be doing this as well on for the Edge Hill night. We always have a bucket collection, so people can donate if and whatever they can afford, and those money goes to the HSA. So that funds Hillsborough Transformational Recovery Model, which is a therapy that they've designed to help anyone affected by
unbelievable work. The work they've done there, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. But even when you're saying about the themes and how it affects people, we've had people at Edinburgh Fringe who said that they're not even from Liverpool, but like they're ex-soldiers, and they're saying that the PTSD that the character shows, that they relate to that. They relate to obviously the mental health side of the show, so it touched on multiple themes. So it's definitely worth the watch.
So it's at the Olympia on the 12th?
Yeah.
And then it's at Edge Hill on the 16th with Phil. And what's that email address again, Gareth? If people wanted to get tickets but now wouldn't be able to, but are very interested in attending.
Yeah, so if you want to express interest and get on a sort of reserve list, if you like, it's corporate events at edgehill.ac.uk.
Excellent stuff all around. Let's get back into the main Anfield Wrap show. Great stuff there, and do check that out and do sign up if you are interested in there being a second staging at Edge Hill, and obviously there's the staging at the Olympia as well. We'll move forward and we'll talk about Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, as I said that we would, Neil. Salah, what a return. He's almost like a cartoon character. He's everything about him so ridiculous. Even now, the endless online, only Mo Salah has more, or the idea that he's now even coming for David Fairclough's record as a substitute when he hates being a substitute. You name it. It's just this endless parade of Salahness that we've been lucky enough to enjoy. But then also, he's so in the moment yesterday. He decides he's going to run the game from right wing, so he runs the game from right wing.
He's a real-life superhero. Yeah. He genuinely is. And we talked earlier on 5 things we learned. The last month has been so bizarre. Some of the criticism, the pelters he's been taking, obviously back in Egypt because of his injury, from ex-professionals who probably should know better, because there is no greater professional on the planet. There is no more committed footballer. There's no man more consistent. There's no man more dedicated. There's no man who you could never level any valid accusation about him not making the most or squeezing every last drop out of his talent. Because that is Salah to a T. He's everything in that department. He's such an inspiration to any other player on the pitch. And for him to be thrust into the action unexpectedly, and just immediately it felt hit like top flight, top gear.
It was mad, wasn't it? It was like I couldn't believe it. Yeah. It was. Do you want to be yourself in there? No, man. Nah, I'm fine, mate.
No,
I'm fine.
It was wild. There's that one turn down on the touchline where he sends him for the echo. It's just glorious, absolutely glorious. There's the couple of chances, as we mentioned earlier, either side at half time when he's sort of finding himself, and then he's just straight back in amongst the goals and the assists. Only Mo Salah, another stat, another statistic. The rate at which he churns these goals out, these contributions out, is astonishing. But it was, as you said, it wasn't just some of the games early in the season, the games where he's not been as involved, but then he's been involved in decisive moments. So he's played the key pass, say away at Palace, where he wasn't that involved in the game until he was. This wasn't that. This was Mo Salah constantly being such a threat. And the way we were carving them out open after the break, where with the runners either side, there was one where he perhaps could have slipped Diaz in but went for Gakpo. The goals were coming, and it was because Mo Salah was involved in everything, and they just couldn't control him. I know they've got injuries themselves. We talked about injuries earlier. Brentford had their issues, haven't they, in the middle this season, missing some really big players for them. That was obviously some issues at defence. Aya won't have had many worse afternoons.
I think it ends with Aya and what's the lad who came from Wolves, whose name now I can't believe, Collins.
Yeah.
I thought that the two, and then Ben Mee is 34, and is now dealing with Mo Salah. And his left wing back, by the way, he's been told to play left wing. He's not gone for a ball. He's been told you've got to go up there. And Ben Mee sees this happen and is going, this is difficult, but he's looking to his right, going, this is a problem here as well. I thought Collins. I genuinely felt, I felt sorry for Collins by the end. It's one of them where afterwards he's got no hiding places, John. But that's what Salah does. It's also what Liverpool did, but Salah especially, I think he was just, it's the extent to which he is just straight back as himself.
100%. And on the defence, first their defence, how many times have we seen in the past, the team will come to Anfield and defend brilliantly, then the next week they look at shambles and they're like, how's that the sort of same team? And it's so frustrating. But the truth is, if defenders are made to look comfortable or phrase that, if defenders are in a comfortable scenario for them, then they'll excel because they're all good footballers. They wouldn't have got to where they are right now. So, you can put endless balls into the box and big lads will sort of head them away or get blocks in and the kind of defending that those type of defenders love, and they'll look good. Or you can drag them out of position, you can pull them all over the place, you can have one injury and then bring on a sort of a world-class replacement, and you can stretch the game, make it open, combination play quick, turn people around, and you can make them start to look uncomfortable. And when you put defenders into uncomfortable scenarios, that's when they start to make mistakes, and that's when they start creaking, that's when they start to worry and do things that they maybe haven't done in other games. And to bring it back to Mo Salah, I think that's what Mo Salah's great at. Mo Salah's got you constantly doing things that you don't want to do. He's constantly, putting you in situations where even top players may look foolish. There's still the famous still, isn't there, of Salah with Martinez, where, he just looks like he's running the wrong way. And, Martinez is a brilliant defender, if we're all honest. It's quite funny because he's little to skit him and stuff like that. But,
and we should continue to do so.
100%. But if we sort of break from that slightly, he's an elite level, defender who, by the way, has had really good games against Liverpool in the past. Had won that season at Old Trafford. But if you're running at them, or you're running at defenders, or turning them around, or dragging them out, or pulling them here, there, and everywhere, and they're not sure where to go because they're like, well, he's going that way and he's my man, but he's been replaced by this other, and it your heads must be working 10 miles a minute sometimes, and you're having to sort of do these things and then before you've thought about it, they've gone through, or they've slipped it through. And so these are the constant questions when we're at our best, and this is why it is a gift to have so many great forwards, and why I was mentioning to Neil before, if you just keep four of them fit, I think if we could just keep have four fit all the time, so you've got sort of one change, it's massive for Liverpool for the rest of the season, because no one else has got the riches that we have. Listen, we're all hoping that the Jota injury is not too bad and we see him sooner rather than later, but if it is a bit of a bad one, okay, well, let's hope, fingers crossed that the other four, are sort of there. But Mo Salah's the best one at it. He's the one who really makes defenders feel uncomfortable. He's the one who knows where people don't want to be and drags them sort of out there. He's the one who can do everything as well, in terms of, he can pass, he can go with both feet, he can sort of go either side. 1 minute he's shooting early, the next minute he's sort of dribbling, the next minute he's slipping someone through. He is elite at all aspects of the game, and he's always in the game, and he's always threatening, and every time he gets the ball he wants to make something happen, and that is a great asset for us, and must be a fucking nightmare for these lads who I ended up feeling a bit sorry for.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, if you look at the last month, Jota's been our best attacker. I called him the daddy of the attackers, and he's the one who's taken it upon himself to be the big man in the big moments, but he's also helping facilitating everyone else and showing, well, I do this, which means you can go off and do that. And then to lose him at the moment we did, when he's been such great form, it's just like such a gut punch. But then it's like, oh, well, the original daddy of the attack is coming back on now, and he is back and better. Like you say, there's no let up. For the opponents, there's no let up. Like, they might have thought, well, maybe we get a few minutes here. So maybe we get like half an hour where he's not quite up to speed and we can take advantage, not a bit of it. And the funniest thing about that game, when I knew he was going to score, when he missed that chance when he went through.
Yep.
And he left, and I knew exactly what he did, what he tried to do, and where it went wrong. And he was just like, not going to happen again, that. And I got the sense that Brentford kind of knew that too. It was just like, no, we're not getting away with this. He's coming for us. And every single opponent we have from now to the end of the season knows that Mo Salah is coming for them.
Yeah, I think the mad thing was it went 2-0, and I thought, well, it's probably 3 now because we've got the Salah one. We scored 3. Yeah. It's 3. We've got 3 now in the bank because Salah's definitely. Van Dijk puts 2 weeks ago behind him, Neil. We've seen him put that sort of stuff behind him in the past, and we know he's that character. But I don't think it's just that. I think he also had back to a real sense of not today. No one's getting anything today. Sorry, gents. I'm looking after all of this, and I think that was especially there again after they go 1-0. I think it's hard to put into words how good they are between 1-0 and 3-0, because I think they are just inevitable. But I think that whilst he's not as involved as, for instance, McAllister and Salah in terms of what's happening in the opposition half, he's just marshalling this idea of you're not getting anywhere behind us now. No, I'm not interested.
Yeah. He does create one big chance for Salah, doesn't he? With the head.
He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, which I thought was very smart. I always like Virgil when you can see. We've commented a few times this season how aggressive he's been in games and how engaged he's been and as active as possible, rather than perhaps slightly more relaxed or laid back, which is something that's sometimes levelled against him. But it's also when he knows he's facing Ivan Toney. You know, it's a duel. It's a formidable opponent. It's a player that has given him problems in the past and would give any centre-half in the league issues. And he talked after the game very respectfully about Brentford and the unique challenge that they pose, the threat that they have, how you've got to be on it against them all the time because, you know, in a moment, as we spoke earlier, they can flip the switch go from front, back to front so quickly. I thought he was brilliant marshalling the defence and in tandem with Konate, and he talked again at length in his interview after the game about Konate and how he's improving as a player, his willingness to learn. Having that duo, Konate's ability to mow someone down on the cover, as he does to pretty much put Toney off before one of his efforts, I think, is on goal. And, you know, a couple of times Brentford, you know, they had openings, but that is to be expected away from home in the Premier League with a team that, rather, again, quite uniquely playing two up top, which isn't something that you really encounter that often now. It's certainly a partnership playing in tandem like they do. And when Wissa came on, he in the past two, was it last season, both him and Mbeumo, I think, caused us all sorts of issues in the defeat last season. So
they really miss him when as that game wore on. They missed him more and more because he's an outball.
Yeah, hugely. And whereas we had that constant outball with Diaz, especially, the way he can just carry it and carry it and carry it, and then, you know, tactically the game state has changed completely by the way he's funneled you up the pitch. So no, I thought back to Virgil, he was supreme, and the leadership that's emanating from him. That's what I take from it. More and more with every passing week, he's more the Liverpool captain that you always thought he would be. He really does. His influence over the team is constant. He's directing everything, and he seems to have taken, you know, the responsibility that he talked about with the mix-up with Alisson, where he, you know, obviously they both made errors there against Arsenal, catastrophic errors. But the way that Virgil was so quick in the interview after the game to say it's on me, it's my responsibility. That's the sort of captain he is.
He's phenomenal leader and really sort of stepped up, and you know, I'm really enjoying his captaincy, and I think he's really enjoying it as well, and he's stepping up in moments, and you know, on the pitch he's really important in that first goal as well, in that, you know, when you sort of look at the replay, you think, oh, it's just a big clearance or whatever, but what he does, which is really important in that move, it's a set piece, and he's grappling with one of their lads. He's probably one of the big defenders, and he's marking him, and they're in a bit of a tussle. I think that is genuinely mutual holding. But, you know, they're in this sort of situation. But sometimes defenders will get preoccupied by that and just think, I've just basically got to stop this man scoring, and that's my job. And you'll see sometimes they're not even looking at the ball and where it's going, and they're just like, if I just stop this fella scoring and then everyone else just stops their fella scoring, then they won't score. And you know, it's fine. it's sort of set piece defending, if you like. But I think the best ones react to certain situations, and he notices where the ball's going and goes, no, hang on, I can sort this. So he goes, go away, you, and just throws this fella to the side. He goes, you're none of my business now. I'm just going to go and deal with that ball, and then none of your pricks are scoring. Anyway, and so in the end, I don't think it's a pass, by the way. I think it is a big boot forward, and we end up, and Jota does brilliantly, but he takes it upon himself to sort that ball out, and he in that moment he makes that decision, and that's leadership on the pitch, and it's really good to the defendant to go, do you know what, you know, I'm gonna forget about this fella now, and I'm gonna take it on to myself, and if he scores, that's on me. Similar to the Arsenal, if he scores, that's on me. But no, I'm gonna go and deal with this, and he does, and it's a big booming ball up the top, and then we get the goal from it. But it is worth watching on the replay just what he does just before that, because I think it's really impressive, and it's really good defending, and he is stepping up in every possible way. And you talk about him talking after the game, and he's doing it a lot more, and I think he's doing it because he is the captain. And so, for people who don't know, a lot of these comments that come out are from the mix zone after the game. And so what happens, for anyone who sort of doesn't know, is obviously they've got the stuff that they have to do for the TV. And yesterday it was McAllister on the pitch who they spoke to, and then the manager has to speak to everyone. But you've got the people who have to sort of step up, and then after that they go and have a shower, and then they walk to the bus, and then the national journalists or the local journalists, so people like Neil Jones or Paul Gust or whoever, James Pearce, people like that, will sort of line across, and then it's up to the players whether they want to stop or not. And some of them do, and some of them don't, and some of them will when they play well and won't when they haven't. I've noticed Virgil, he's always stopping, and he's always stopping. And a few weeks ago, he got a little bit done, and that's not me slagging off any of my mates here, but there was the comments around where he was asked about, what does this mean for your future? And he was just like, I don't know. And then it was a big story, and then he was like, fucking hell, I just said I don't know because we just played the game and stuff like that. And then he did Men in Blazers afterwards, didn't he? And then he sort of they brought it up straight away, and he just went, I just want to clarify, do you know what I mean? And I think it would have been perfectly natural after that to be like, I'm not fucking stopping for them picks. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point? What am I getting out of this? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've stopped to be nice. I'm not saying that, knowing that everyone's done the jobs and stuff like that, but it wouldn't have surprised me if after. But instead, he's like, oh no, it's sound. I'm doing that Men in Blazers. Them weird Americans who were also Evertonians in a few days or so. I'll speak to them and I'll sort it there, and then it's done then. And then he's back, and then he's talking to them again because he thinks I'm Liverpool captain, and I should go.
And it also means that everyone else can just walk past and get on the bus and go out.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll go and do that. I'll go and front this. I'll go and speak to all these people who might stitch me up. I'm being a bit mean here, you know what I mean? Neil Jones is listening to this going, I fucking never stitched him up. That's what he said. What do you want me to do? And you're completely right, Neil. But you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, what it would have been easy for Virgil to go on is, I'll avoid that because what's the benefit? But he's stepping up, like Neil Atkinson says there, who'd never stitch anyone up, would say is right, but also he just thinks, do you know what, I want to talk about Canate. So what Neil Dohan's just said there, do you know what I mean? The pros outweigh the cons of me doing this. Also, I should be doing it because I'm Liverpool captain and I want to front up. But also, if I just say I'm not going to speak to them anymore, then I'm going to lose my opportunity to go, do you know what, fucking Canate was great today, wasn't he? And aren't the young lads doing well? And Quanta, look how well he's playing when he is doing. And Conor Bradley, fucking hell, do you know what I mean? Like what a player. And he's able to get those stories sort of out there, really. And so I'm super impressed by him. With someone like Virgil, you didn't think you'd get more impressed by him, do you?
And obviously he's captained his country, he's got all that experience, the role comes naturally to him in many ways. I thought their goal, I don't really feel there was much he could have done about it either, despite the fact he'd been slightly pulled out of position. It was more what was happening ahead of him in the build-up to the goal, where Robertson decided to push. Robertson I'm not sure if he was trying to pass to Diaz or to push it past the player and then run around and collect it on the other side, but he's pushed up high, Robertson, too high. Gravenberch then has a difficult, I think, position to try and get across, close the man down. It was one of the rare instances in the game where we just left ourselves a little bit exposed down that flank, and I think Canate is unlucky in that he almost clears it.
Canate almost clears it.
And then a great save.
Kelleher makes a great save, and then Tony's in there, and McAllister almost blocks the one from Tony. So even in that one moment where it goes wrong, there was still so much where we were like, okay, it was only just a little bit wrong. And going back to Virgil and the one what he wants to put out, the positive messages coming out of the dressing room are really important because there is so much negativity out there just as a natural, because this is high stakes, and so everyone's all really tense, and any little thing that goes wrong can be a big thing, like we were saying with Virgil saying I don't know, and suddenly it's a massive story. So
the injuries,
there's so many narratives of our world, this is going to be the reason why we don't do it, and there's so much more on it now with the whole Kloppness that everyone's so it has to be now. So here's our thing of wanting to put more positive messages out there, more reinforcement to the lads in the dressing room that no, we are doing the right things, we are going the right way, we are doing what it takes. I think is a really important thing.
The bigger picture, John, leaves us with City dropping 2 points against the side that we beat comfortably 3 weeks ago, but I think that's a bit of a reminder that this stuff oscillates more than it's given credit for. It's the way it works in there, Arsenal went and put 6 past Burnley, but they needed a last minute or a late winner from Havertz to win 1-0 at Brentford early in the season. We won 4-1. My point about this is that not obviously the City result goes well for us, but trying to sort of ride the waves of other people's performances and scorelines, I think it's just a bit of a waste of time. You name the game, we may well have done better in it in a couple of weeks' time. They may well do better than us. It is just a 3-horse race now. It looks like Arsenal are going to win in February. They've got a challenge next weekend against Newcastle, but it's so exciting.
It is, it's great, and it's a really good point you make, because we will drop points at some point between now and the end of the season, I would imagine. And in that game, someone will say, "Oh, City would have won there," or whatever. But it's, it might be true for that specific game. But like you say, there'll be another one where they drop points where we sort of haven't. And it is that sort of season. I never thought that City were just going to win every game for the rest of the season. I understand people's fears on it because it's happened before in a way. But I'm thinking, I'm sure you've watched them, to be honest with you, because I always felt that. That's not to say that they won't necessarily win the league, because they might, but I think we've got as good a chance as anyone. And I'm looking at those three teams and thinking you can make an argument for all of them. And that's great, because Liverpool are one of the ones we're making an argument for, and we certainly weren't last season at this time. And so it is exciting. You're right, Neil, and they've looked like they've got a determination and a belief. And look, Arsenal will have a belief, and Manchester City will have a belief as well, because of for Arsenal how well they're playing and the fact that they beat the other two teams at home, and City will have to believe, because they always sort of will, based on sort of what they've done. But we will too, and we're right in there, and we've got a great chance, and we are top of the league, and everyone keeps forgetting it for some reason, but we are top of the league. It's
mad.
And we've been top for fucking ages, by the way, so there's no excuses. No one can go, "Oh, I didn't realise Liverpool were there." We've been top for fucking ages.
And that draw now means that they won't automatically go above us if they beat Brentford. I think as long as we do what we have to do against Luton. So
they just won't anyway. It's 4 points game in hand, so it'll go 57, 56, 55.
The fascinating thing for me on all this, something Roger said after the game, is that he said that no one's going to win all their games out, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, but you are expected to believe that you will. So to you to come out and say we won't win, we didn't think we were going to win all our games from here to the end of the season, I was like, oh. Because normally you would either not say that and just think it anyway, or you would say we're going to win every game. So they don't think that it's as inevitable as a lot of other people seem to think. And that gives me loads of confidence.
Maybe it's him as well trying to get across that it's not the disaster that perhaps it felt at the time.
Well, it's not a disaster for them.
No, but I saw Haaland's reaction at full time, swiping away the cameraman, all very moody and salty.
Missed some chances though, didn't he?
Yeah, wasn't very happy, the big goth, was he?
It looked a bit WWE, didn't it? The whole thing, the way he stood there.
Or Wolf in Gladiator Prime. Second Gladiator's reference of the show. Yeah, it was all...
Not necessarily the last, there's still a bit to go.
Indeed. But yeah, and there's such a good point that we obliterated Chelsea a matter of weeks ago, and then they've gone and taken points off City, and people wouldn't have predicted that. It is going to be up and down. I will fully admit my head fell off after the defeat at Arsenal, and I was one of those who was doom and gloom for at least 24 hours, thinking, the permutations of title race and City are inevitable and all these things that can be said. But it's not the Manchester City of 17, 18, 19 that we're up against, or even that of last season. They've still got so much quality. They're still favourites to my mind because of what they've achieved in the past. But they aren't going to win every game, and as John said, nor will us, unfortunately. But we're in such a good position now that if we can do what needs to be done over the next couple of fixtures...
Well, what I think is massive is I think there's an enormous amount of scoreboard pressure likely to be on Arsenal next Saturday night.
Yeah.
They've got Newcastle at home, and we should beat Luton. It's not mad to say that. Luton are 17th in the league at the time of recording, and they haven't played any of the top four away yet, Luton. They haven't had that reality yet. So you're in this situation where I think you're looking at that going, okay, we should beat Luton, and that will put us then, having played a game more, 5 points clear of Arsenal. City go to Bournemouth next weekend, so they've got Brentford at home, and then they've got Bournemouth. So they should also be then at that point, realistically, 4 points clear of Arsenal, and then Arsenal have got to deal with Newcastle at home on Saturday night. And at the minute, that feels like, well, Arsenal will deal with Newcastle at home on Saturday night. But everyone who's going to the Emirates, including Mikel Arteta at the moment it kicks off, knows we really need to win this, because we can't let that gap open up in that way.
Well, that's become the greatest feud of modern times as well, Newcastle and Arsenal, hasn't it? It's suddenly become a real heated rivalry with Arteta.
But a mad team, Newcastle as well, in a way that isn't necessarily great if you're playing against them.
But if they go and do their Atletico Madrid impression again, as they did, last season when everyone's head fell off, and they could take points off them.
The other thing as well is that they've got the Champions League game this midweek.
Wednesday,
and so and I think they're away first leg.
Away at Porto.
And so if they don't get a convincing result in that, then that might knock their confidence. I mean, I'm not saying if they're going to get beat. I would be surprised if they got beat.
Porto were a bit of a mess this season.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they got beat, but it could be a game.
That's
where
why Ruben Amorim research there, Mo, coming out just for everyone, just so everyone knows. My Ruben Amorim Sanchez research lets me know that Porto were a bit of a mess this season.
Well, it did some good then.
Yeah.
But yes, the point is that Arsenal have been out of the Champions League for so long, and this is the first time I can think of in a very long time where you can look at that Arsenal side and say, they're a good chance to get to the last four if they do what they're supposed to do in the Champions League. But then it's like, can they do both? Can they go from 0 to doing both? That's a big jump. Are they going to have to start making some concessions, some decisions between one and the other? They've got a couple, I think if they get to the quarterfinals, there's a situation where they're playing 2 legs of the quarterfinal either side of Villa at home. And then they've got another semi-final, but will be just before going to Spurs. So there are lots of kind of more.
Yeah, you get Real Madrid, and suddenly
quarters. Just if you want to do that for what will be the quarters, Arsenal have got Brighton away, and then they've got Villa at home either side of what will be the first leg of the quarter-final, and then the next one that they've got after that is that then they go to Wolves. So it'd be Brighton quarter, Villa quarter, Wolves. In that little run there.
Good yesterday, Wolves, did you watch it?
Yeah,
they like it in North London.
We are in the same period. We've got to go to Old Trafford. Then we've got Palace if we're in the last 8 of the Europa. All these games move to Sunday, and then theoretically Fulham, but we might have an FA Cup semi-final that day. It's mad how I know this.
But do you remember when Arsenal lost those couple of games? I think was it 2 games they lost after the draw at Anfield. And people were very quick to write them out of the title race and say they're no longer part of it. And now people are very quick
but that was massively because of our game there. And the one thing I would say right now, and I think there is still a little bit less, we've got a bit of wiggle room back. But I think the key thing is, without raking over it, if we just get out of that with a 1-1,
I know
everything looks so different at this point. If we just get out with a 1-1, everything looks so different. But it looks the way it looks, and it is exciting. Are we all excited? Are we all up for this?
Very much so.
Oh, bang up for it, yeah. It's possible. You'd rather be in it. We've had the last season, like I said before, where it was fucking shit. This is well better.
I couldn't agree more with that analysis. This is well better than last season. 100%. Listen, subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. If you've listened to this much of it, you should do today. So genuinely sign up. You can do it through the app. You can do it through... also through the website and also Patreon in there as well. Well done. And if you just want the video stuff, you can do it through YouTube. All the different ways to do
5
it.
things is good,
I thought it would be. I could see he was on it. Just thought bringing our A game for this Sunday.
As good as the Gladiators reboot.
There we are. It is a hat-trick. Neil Docking, Mo Stewart, John Gibbons. This is well better than last year. That's all you can say.